Alright guys, so in this video we're checking out the Cetus FPV kit from BETAFPV. Comes with a brushed tiny whoop, set of goggles, get a controller. So this is the Light Radio 2 controller and the VR02 goggles. I've done reviews on these two components before, so I'll link these videos in the description, so I'm going to cover them in detail in this video. USB cable and a charger for the batteries. This is USB-C, and it doesn't come with the power brick, so you have to have some sort of a power brick or wall adapter for this. And then you get two 1S batteries. You get some spare props and a little USB adapter for the drone, and also a prop removal tool. And you get some gimbal protectors for the controller. Now, this kit here is meant for beginners, it's people that don't have any equipment at all. So if you're someone that has stuff already, this kit's not for you. I don't recommend you buying this. I would recommend adding to whatever you already have. Obviously, that's a topic for a different video. I'm not going to cover it in this one. But yeah, if you have questions about whether this is the kit for you, if you already have equipment, the answer is no. This is for someone that is curious about FPV, wants to get started, doesn't know how to fly. This kit, well, the drone itself is kind of unique at this price point. It has altitude hold and position hold. So it's got sensors for barometer to maintain altitude, and it's got a sensor on the bottom, like a little camera for position hold. So it will just hover and not move unless you actually input some control. So for those people that have a lot of difficulties getting in the air and flying, this could be a good first step. Now, what I would recommend if you are a beginner and this is your first kit and you do have this and you happen to get it, after you kind of learn how to fly this for a little bit, you're going to want to take this controller and plug this into your computer via the USB-C in the bottom, and you can use it as a joystick. And I would recommend there's a bunch of different simulators out there for FPV. You can learn how to fly drones that way. If you want to learn to do things like acro and tricks and that kind of thing, I'd recommend taking the controller and going on a simulator first before you go and buy your first $500 drone and end up crashing it, because while this doesn't really help you in that sense, it'll keep you in the air. A lot of the ones that you buy after this one won't have these features to keep you in the air, like position hold and altitude hold, so keep that in mind. So there's a manual here. I'm not going to cover everything in the manual, just some of the highlights. There's a bunch of switches here on the controller. The one here on the top is for arming and disarming. Actually, this one, I think it's this one here. This one arms and disarms. You have a 3-position switch here for your different modes. This one is, when it's down, it's going to be an adaptive mode, which is going to be your position hold and altitude hold. And then you have normal mode, and then you have sport mode, which is basically acro mode, which has basically no help whatsoever. I think normal mode is altitude hold but not position hold. You can change your VTX channels with this switch over here on the top right, and then one on the bottom right doesn't do anything as far as I know. So to get this going, you just basically slide your battery into the bottom of the drone, little battery tray here, and you're going to plug it in. You get some blue flashing lights. You want to keep it level like this, and then eventually, let's see, put it down here. Eventually it'll finish booting up. You get some green and orange flashing lights. Now it's ready. It's waiting for the controllers. You're going to turn on the controller, press and hold this button here on the controller. Get 3 tones. Get a solid blue light on the controller and a solid blue light on the drone like this, as you can see. Now we're bound up. Go ahead, power on the goggles over here. Turn that on, and then you should have a screen, but it looks like it's not tuned to the correct channel. So you just press and hold the S button here. And now it has searched and found the channel that the drone is on. So you probably have to do that every time it turns on, because this goggle defaults to like some, I think A1. and it's not the same as what the drone is, so you'll have to do that pretty much every time it's turned on. And just press the search button, and it will find, it'll find the video signal. Yeah, so there's no DVR on this goggle, so I'm gonna record the flight footage here on this other set of goggles here that has a DVR. This obviously is not included, so if you want a DVR, I'll include something down in the description. You could probably get like a Yixin watch with a built-in DVR that could record your flights as well. All right, so I'm just gonna launch it first and get it to hover. So just arm it, props to turn on, and then you lift up the throttle halfway. Okay, so that way I noticed it's drifting around, so it must be in a different mode. And I was in normal mode, so I put the switch all the way down. It should be now in the adaptive mode. So we'll go ahead and launch it again. There we go. So you can see the throttle is about halfway up. It's lower. It's a little bit too high. I am over a glass table, so it might be a little bit confused. Let's put it right there. Probably shouldn't be doing this over a glass table. Alright, let me see if it doesn't move. Okay, there. Right there. You have to find kind of a spot on the throttle where it's not going to drift around too much. It's kind of drifting up a little bit, but it generally stays in the right spot. So, going to fly it around a little bit here. It's very easy to fly around. It does maintain its altitude without too much trouble. And if you let go of the controls like this, it will just kind of halt in place. Obviously, over a better surface than glass is what we would probably want to do. I'll go ahead and land it and just disarm. I'm going to actually just fly it around and in FPV mode. Alright, so go ahead and launch it. Alright, so the OSD is saying I'm in normal mode. I'm going to switch it to sport mode. As soon as you do that, it drops to the ground because the altitude hold cuts off. So you have to actually maintain your altitude on your own. And this sport mode is actually like angle mode in Betaflight. It's not acro mode. So if you want to learn how to fly acro mode, you're going to have to take this controller and use a simulator. Let's land it here and stick it back into. Okay, so that's interesting. So the A mode went away. Let's disarm here. On the OSD, I'm seeing N mode, S mode, and an M mode. Yeah, so this is different from the manual. So I think N mode is actually the adaptive mode, and then S mode is the normal mode, and M mode is the manual mode, or the angle mode. So they must have made some updates to this particular drone and my kit versus what's in the manual is different. So that's kind of a bummer. Anyway, so I'm back in N mode here. I think this is the one with altitude hold and position hold. So I'm going to launch it. Looks like the battery's dead. Let me switch the battery. Alright, let me launch it again. All right, weird. Let's see here. Yeah, position hold's working. Altitude hold's working. So they must have changed the names inside this particular drone. So the instructions I have don't match what this drone has. It's kind of strange. I'm going to try and fly it around in just this N mode here. Bring it down a little bit. Oh, interesting. So I landed on the sofa or the couch over here, and it just thinks that I'm on the ground. So if you're flying over objects, it's going to get confused. So you probably want to be in a space, like for example, fly over this chair here. Okay, that time wasn't confused, but when I landed on this sofa over here, it got confused and landed, thinking that it was on the ground. Let's see if I can go under an object. Nope. Yeah, I didn't like that at all. But it flipped over when it crashed, and the motor shut off, which is good. It's a good safety feature. So yeah, if you do end up crashing, which this shouldn't really do, it's supposed to just gently land. So let me actually, let's do a landing here. And let me show you what happens when you land. Because basically just when it gets close to the ground, the motors will slow down, and then you can just disarm. I'll take off again. It does not like the glass table at all. Alright, so I'm over the ground here. I'm going to bring it down slow. Then when you hit the ground, the motor slow down, and then you can just disarm. So that should be pretty easy for landings. Yeah, so overall it's not a bad kit. I think it'll get you in the air and at least keep you in the air so you're kind of flying around, but I recommend flying this in a larger space with not a lot of variation in the ground, so that it's this large, smooth, open area, so that it doesn't get confused by when it flies over objects. So then it tries to readjust the altitude based on the distance from the drone to the ground. And as if you have, like for example, I fly over the table, it gets all confused. Also, flying over transparent objects like this glass table is not a good idea either. So keep that in mind. It does mess up the sensors on here, but I think it'd be good to get people in the air. Obviously, long term, would recommend taking this controller, plugging it into your computer with the USB-C cable, and getting a good simulator, and learn how to fly drones that way, and learn how to fly drones in acro mode. Ultimately, you're going to want to eventually transition to acro mode at some point. You don't want to be too dependent on a lot of sensors and angle mode, and it will limit your progression as a pilot down the road. But if you want to just get started and get an idea what FPV is like and don't want to be crashing right away, this will keep you in the air, get you started, and then at that point you can take your next steps, getting a simulator and then moving on to your first drone. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know. Talk to you guys in the next one.